Hello everyone and welcome to In Case You Missed It. Massive headlines coming out of round 3. Let's get straight into it. We'll start at the MCG where Tigers Premiership superstar Alex Rance might be in a little bit of trouble for this very late hit on Hawk Luke Bruce in the final term of the Tigers win over the Hawks on Sunday. The match review panel to look at that one. Michael Christian to make a decision on Monday that, geez, the Tigers were impressive. There's Jack Higgins kicking his first goal in AFL footy with his first kick on debut. The Hawks, though, were atrocious. They turned the ball over, and that is despite Tom Mitchell, that man there, having 42 disposals, 12 clearances and a goal, but it was all the Tigers.
And the luxury of some fancy stuff in the square from Dan Butler, if you don't mind.
Very fancy footwork from Dan Butler, indeed. A brilliant goal. Now over to the West, and there are some real concerns for Geelong coming after their loss to the West Coast Eagles. Big injuries to Adelaide. We'll get to that in just a second. Geez, the Eagles were impressive off the start. They got out to a 33-point lead at half-time, and the Cats came back in the third with 6 goals in that term, but it was all about Adelaide. You can see him there. He's pinged a hamstring. Injuries too to Guthrie, an ankle injury, and Nakia Cockatoo has done a PCL in his knee. Tim Kelly was also impressive with this strong goal that put Geelong back in the game, but unfortunately the Eagles were too strong. Liam Ryan actually injuring himself there with that goal, and then of course Nick Natanui with that brilliant tap to the Frenchman Mark Lacroix.
And are they home for their first win at Optus Stadium?
What a way for West Coast to start their new home at Optus Stadium. All right, on to the Bulldogs and Essendon at Etihad Stadium on Sunday. Jake Stringer coming up against his former side for the very first time. We knew there'd be some lip, and there certainly was. He wasn't too bad though, Stringer, 16 disposals and a goal, but the Bonch, gee, he was fantastic up forward for the Bulldogs today. 3 goals, including that brilliant one. And then there was a brain fade from Joe Danaher with about 5 minutes to go. This would have put the Bombers within 10 points. Seconds later, this happened.
McLean can go all the way. I'm not sure Zaharakis can get him. McLean with a low burner. Got it, Dogs. Surely home now.
So a dog day for the Bombers. The Bulldogs, though, getting their first win of 2018. All right, it's now time for the buzz. We love what's making news on social media. And, well, the Pies cheer squad caused a stir on Friday night before the game. They spelt tonight wrong in their banner. Even their ruckman Mason Cox getting in on the fun. And then the Brisbane Lions poked a little bit of fun as well at Collingwood. They had some last-minute changes to their banner, but luckily they wanted to tell the Pies they had spell check on. Now, out of that game, Collingwood and Carlton on Friday night at the MCG, there were plenty of talk about the bouncers. The umpires had a really tough night. Several bouncers had to be recalled, in particular in the third quarter. And so that is our agenda for this week. Should the bounce be scrapped? I'm sure that will be talked about throughout the week, as will this one. A score review in the Hawthorn-Richmond game. Now, this is actually Richmond's forward 50. You can see the ball here come off Jack Gunston's boot. Now, it is a score review. It goes upstairs to the score review official who actually ruled it a goal. Can you believe it? You can see it here on the screen, a goal. Now, the Tigers fans are happy, but the Hawks are absolutely bewildered, and the umpires, they thought something was up too, so they went back upstairs and the decision was overturned. Now, Richmond coach Damien Hardwick said in his post-match press conference that he had been told the wrong button had accidentally been pushed by the score review official. So it all ended well in the end. All right, let's move on to Port Adelaide and the Brisbane Lions. It was a cracking match at Adelaide Oval on Saturday afternoon, and the Lions, geez, they were impressive once again. Port obviously got the win and they started really, really well, but the Lions were in there the whole time. They really hung with them, and mostly due to the ruck work of Stephen Martin. He was fantastic with 30 disposals and 49 hitouts. This man here, Alan Christensen, had a chance to put the Lions in front with minutes to go and unfortunately couldn't get it done. And then here's Stephen Martin again with a last-minute kick.
Howard saves the day, and Port Adelaide win an absolute thriller. Heartbreaking for the Lions and a heart-stopper for the crowd.
And it was a heart-stopper indeed for Port Adelaide fans. Dougal Howard saving the day there with that last-minute mark. Alrighty, well, the D's, geez, they gave their fans a little bit of a scare early days, but they had a 17-game hoodoo to break against North Melbourne. The Roos, they got off to a really strong start, and there were fears that maybe this drought against North Melbourne would continue for the D's. Mad Jack Daw was a late in replacing Robbie Tarrant, who was out with illness. Now, Mad Jack Daw went back, he played in defence. Geez, he took some good marks, had some tough hits as well. He was like a man possessed in a way. Max Gawn, though, the ruckman for Melbourne, was sublime. 18 disposals and 50 hitouts. He was absolutely terrific for the Demons. Christian Petrarca, too, chiming in with goals. So it was a really fantastic day for the Demons as they broke their 17-game losing streak against the Roos. Well, Sydney GWS, it was a game that had plenty of anticipation. There was lots of hype going into it. And, geez, Sydney was fantastic. And that is despite Sam Reid with this absolutely embarrassing miss for goal. My grandma probably could have kicked that one. And then Tim Taranto also had a shocker. He plays on here. Dane Rampy, excellent tackle there, stopping a certain goal, and they left Buddy Franklin, though, to show them exactly how it's done.
He delays the give. Franklin, this is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman! This is him!
All right, it's time for this week's Hot and Cold, and we can't look past Fremantle skipper Nat Fyfe for this week's Hot Player of the Week. He is absolutely sublime at the moment, back to his best Brownlow form. He had 38 disposals, 25 of those contested, 15 clearances, 8 tackles, 7 inside 50s, and a goal, if you don't mind, in Freo's 28-point win against the Suns. He was absolutely terrific, Nat Fyfe, and that is why he is our round 3 player of the week. That is hot. Now, we love hot, but there's also cold, and a team that's not going so well is St Kilda. We spoke about them last week, and they were terrible again against Adelaide, who were very, very classy. Just 19,000 fans turned out at Etihad Stadium, which was such a shame for the Saints in a home game. And Adelaide far too strong, unfortunately, for St Kilda.
Greenwood at the front and centre Douglas. Should be enough for Bryce Gibbs. Class finish.
We'll need to look at the front half. No, whilst we're not kicking the ball well, we've just been through that. No, we got it in there enough to put a bit more pressure on than we did today. So that's something that we'll have to look at.
So that looks like Paddy McCartan, who didn't kick a goal in that game, and Josh Bruce, who kicked 1 goal, might be in the firing line there, according to Richo. And we should remember too that Josh Battle actually kicked 3 goals in the VFL, so he could come into the side. All right, it's now time for our play of the round, and this week we had 2 players and we just couldn't split them, master and apprentice. The master being Eddie Betts, who had a massive Saturday. Not only did he finally kick his first goal of 2018, but his wife gave birth before the game to twin daughters, and Eddie watched the whole thing unfold on FaceTime, no less. So he was the master. The apprentice, Jack Higgins, the Richmond debutant, picked number 17 in last year's draft, and he's got some fine soccer skills. Let's take a look.
Did it really well, Jenkins, and now opens the door for McGovern. Is that 15? No, Eddie bets. Eddie will love this situation. Look for some magic here. Eddie runs around. His first goal in 2018 is a ripper.
Just a little out to the right. Sets it up to the top of the square. And... Oh, it's kicked out of there. And it's Higgins. Cue the celebrations again.
Jack Higgins has definitely been playing way too much FIFA in his spare time, but that was a brilliant goal from the debutant. All right, let's take a look at the ladder. After 3 rounds, and Port Adelaide is sitting pretty on top. They're the only undefeated team left in the competition. Melbourne into the top 4 for the first time. Sydney and Hawthorn rounding out the 8 as we look at the bottom half of the draw. Richmond, Fremantle, North Melbourne, and then down the bottom, the Brisbane Lions, who have been impressive but unfortunately winless, along with Carlton. And that is it for this edition of In Case You Missed It. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with plenty more.